Okay, it's time to take a look at the last remaining assault battlecruiser. This is the Talos 3. Now the Talos 3 is probably the best looking one. I'm kinda torn between the Oracle and the Talos in terms of how the ship looks, but the Talos is a very pretty ship, and I'm very surprised that this is a Galante ship. After all, Galante ships aren't really known for their aesthetics. But anyway, the Talos 3 is one of the prettiest battlecruisers in the game, and it might very well be one of the most lethal ones. I've heard that the ship can have higher DPS than a Vindicator, but we will see what the numbers will show us. Now the pirates, not the pirate, but the roll bonus, minus 95% large ray-gun power grid requirement, minus 50% large ray-gun capacitor need. Advanced large ray-gun operation bonus will give you plus 6% large ray-gun damage, plus 5% large railgun attacking speed. Advanced battlecruiser command bonus will give minus 5% inertia and minus 4% signature radius on the micro warp drive. 2 drones, 7 high slots, 3 medium slots, 6 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs, 39,000 hit points. Now the Talos is primarily a armor tank, although you can do a shield tank as well. You can do both depending on what skills you have. 3577 gigajoule is the capacitor. The capacitor recharge time is 576 seconds. 15.53 gigajoule per second is the recharge rate. It can lock 7 targets. Now, at first I thought that the Talos will be the slowest, although then I remembered that the Galante ships are known for their speed and armor, so the Talos might not be the fastest, but it's probably not the slowest. Now on to the build. So I will start with showing you a PvP build, and this is the build that I personally really like on most of my ships nowadays. I have the C-type large snub-newsed or snub-used, both names are actually fine to be honest. The C-type blasters, 9.36 km is the range, accuracy fall at 13, tracking 11.08, 1 scrambler, dual webs, some drones. I have a medium micro warp drive, a damage control, and quad magnetic field stabilizers. Basically maximum possible DPS, a full-on yeet build. Now I have dual burst aerators and 1 collision accelerator, basically maximum DPS, 1 auxiliary power grid router, polycarbon engine housing, and a auxiliary thruster. Now the nanocore is the same nanocore that I have been using on the previous 3 assault battlecruisers. Again, I picked this core because I like how it looks, not because of the stats, and I keep all of my cores on the first default primary attribute. I don't upgrade them. However, you have a lot of options for the nanocore on this ship. Depending on how you build the Talos, you can go for speed, for tank, or for damage. I think most of you will probably go for damage. After all, this thing has the potential to have some terrifying DPS, and I can't wait to see that DPS in action. The Neon Rain core also looks very nice. Perhaps I should have used that core for this video. Anyway, you also have some blue nanocores and green ones. They are very easy to obtain via the market. My recommendation is to go get the blue or green or the Concord Pass nanocore because they're very easy to obtain and they don't cost much. Now for the implants, we have 2 options, high power call and you have the thermal circulation implant. The thermal circulation is the one that I'll show you right now because I'll do both a shield and armor tank for this ship today. Now for an armor tank, the thermal circulation is perfect because it gives you extra armor resistance. As for the general units, you can go with the afterburn unit, my warp drive units, or in my case, I think I'll just go with maximum possible DPS because this is a DPS build, and for my DPS builds I prefer maximum possible DPS. Basically the idea behind this build is to land on top of the target, basically immediately weapons crumble them, and then you unload your DPS onto the target, and there is a good chance that they're not going to live long depending on what build they have, and of course depending on what type of DPS you are rolling. And speaking of DPS, let's see how much DPS can the Talos 3 push. So I've been told that the Talos 3 can out DPS a Vindicator and that this thing is very lethal when it has a PvP build. And I'm very curious to see what numbers I'll get on the Talos 3. After all, I'm still looking to get myself a new Battlecruiser, although I will have to get some skills up in order to fly the ships properly, but I do have plans for a Battlecruiser, and after I play around with the Talos 3, I will probably decide which one to pick. For some reason, the drones don't like to be grouped, so I'll just do this, and actually I can do, yeah, this looks nice. Okay, nice and clean. So, my warp drive is on, and let's take a look at the DPS, 2,900. Okay, that's the cold, 1.4 kilometers per second, which honestly is fairly fast. It's about the same speed as the Naga, a little bit faster than the Oracle, so the Oracle might very well be the slowest, I guess. And the overall defense, 77,000, without the damage control, of course, is also really good. Okay, let's boot up the thermal circulation. Now, the thermal circulation kicks in at heat 70, so basically you have to charge it up, and then basically after 70 you will have the effect up until 99, and then if it overheats you lose that DPS. So make sure that you never overheat the thermal circulation. Turn the implant off at heat level 90 or close to 90, and then just wait for the next round. And well, I guess some of these pictures are going to end up as a thumbnail. Again, this ship is very pretty, and this nanocore and the color that this nanocore has makes this ship even prettier, and I like that. Okay, 5,800 cold DPS with thermal circulation active. Lovely. Let's do it with the one magnetic field stab, 7,100. With the second one, 8,500. Okay. With the third one, 9,500. It's over 9,000 already. Alright, nice. And it's over 10,000. Okay, that's some nice DPS on this little boat. So the question, can it out DPS a Vindicator? Oh yes, it can. This is Megatron Striker level DPS on this little boat, with a full-on Yeet glass build that I actually really like to use in PvP on all of my ships. Well, very impressed by the DPS output, 210,000 hit points with the damage control, which gives you some good stats, honestly, for 13 seconds. I don't think most ships will be alive in those 13 seconds, so that's, the damage control is enough protection. Now you can go with a armor plate, which will give you a lot more armor, basically buffer tank. I have been using the buffer tanks a lot lately because I started to like them, and you can increase the armor plate armor with the general unit for about 23% per armor plate, and this is also a very good idea to do on this boat. Now 98,000 hit points, almost 100,000 cold, 34,000 armor, which is very nice. You can do a build like this with one adaptive armor harder, a plate, and a damage control. Also increases resistance a lot. You still have some good DPS even with this build. And let's undock to show you how much DPS I can get with the current layout, with the current build. So far, you know, with these builds you can create some pretty nasty and pretty tanky boats. Basically, you do have tank, and you also do have DPS, and you have speed. Basically, you have everything you need, and I'm a fan of that. I really like that you can do that. 121,000 hit points. Okay, very nice. This is with the thermal implant, by the way. So the thermal implant, the extra 20% that it gives you is basically like having a free adaptive armor hardener active at all time. And honestly, I really like that. One of my favorite implants. 5,300 DPS, cold with the thermal circulation at 72. 6,500 with one magnetic stab, and with the second one 7,800. So you still have some hilariously crazy DPS, and you also have gained more tank. Well, if the target is webbed and scrambled, the target is probably dead very quickly.
Docking request
You have to be
accept-
careful about long range ships, because long range ships can actually kill the Talos, because the Talos doesn't have a lot of range. And this build will adapt this one plate, and a damage control also looks nice. We can replace one adaptive into a reactive if you're fighting a ship with lasers or railguns, because it's only a dual damage type weapon. And you can also do a shield tank, the classic large extender, and the damage control. I use this on the Cinnaball and on some of the other ships. Now with this build, with the shield PvP build, go with the high power coil, because you don't need that extra armor resistance with a shield tank. And with the units, I'll just go add magnetic field stabilizer units, and I will add that one shield extender unit. Now the DPS should be a bit higher, 3150.08, because the passive effect is actually increased with high power coil, and you have 29,000 shield, 84,000 hit points, so you get more hit points with armor. Now you can do dual extenders and a damage control. Now you have a lot of shield, 42,000 at 98,000 hit points, very good. And you can also enhance the resistance with one adaptive, with one invulnerability field and dual extenders and a damage control. Also a very good looking shield stat. And you have this with dual adaptives, one extender and a damage control, also should work really well. Now, before I forget, let me go and show you the maximum possible DPS with the high power coil using this build, because I know I showed you with the thermal circulation, and now I will show you with the high power coil. Now the high power coil has instant DPS, but it's a little bit lower than the thermal circulation, while the thermal circulation has a lot more DPS, but it lasts a lot shorter. And that's basically how both of these implants work. And well, let's quickly check out the maximum possible DPS that we can get on the Talos with 4,800. Okay, let's do 5,800, almost 6,000 DPS with the second stab, 7,000. Okay, 7,000 flat, 7,800, and with the last one the DPS is 8,200, which is honestly really good. You basically can get that instantly, although you have to charge up the implant before using it. Basically use when the high power coil is about
docking request accepted.
80 or 90% fully charged. And for a PvE build, well, as a sniper, I don't really like to use the Talos 3 as a sniper, because, well, the range is not really that good, and this ship's power grid is probably the smallest. Although with the right rigs and with the right modules, you can make the Talos a sniper, but this ship does work better as a brawler ship. And now let me do this. With a general unit you can enhance the range, but it should still be under 60 or under 70 kilometers, I believe. Yeah, 65 kilometers. Okay. Well, so the Talos doesn't really have that good of a range, but you know, with the right rigs and modules we can get that up to 100, but you will lose a lot of DPS. And this is a PvE build that I will use today. Overall, there is a lot of other ways how to build this. I just picked the armor tank, and I basically picked that layout because I think that it will work really well. And there is two options for this build: thermal circulation or high power coil. The thermal if you need more tank, high power coil if you want more sustained DPS, but both implants will give you extra DPS in the end. Okay, well, let's take a ride on this beautiful boat and let's see how the Talos will perform. Now this thing has already some really nasty DPS, so in high sec I can see the Talos being used as a high sec boat. It can easily clear everything just as quickly as a battleship. And you can even go with a full-on DPS build without the need of a lot of defense modules, but since I prefer to have my ship ready for any possible situation, I like to have some armor repair, some tank, and of course some capacity batteries, just in case if anything goes wrong, I have a high chance of survival. But you can go full DPS and minimal defense in high sec missions. You don't really need that much tank in high sec because the missions are fairly easy, at least for now. That might change into the future, who knows. Now, against small targets like frigates, destroyers, interceptors, use the approach or keep at range option. I basically set the approach to be at about 10 kilometers. Weapons, crumble them and then you kill them. Against cruisers, you can do an orbit, although I would still recommend to use the keep at range option, although if in high sec, then a classic orbit should be enough. For battlecruisers and battleships, you can easily orbit with the afterburner on. They are big targets and you will not have a lot of issues hitting them. You have to remember that you are using large turrets, large weapons, and large turrets have lower tracking than medium and small ones, so again, some targets you have to use the keep at range option so that you can maximize the damage that you do to them. Against big targets, well, that's not a big deal because big targets are big targets and they are very easy to hit, so you can easily orbit around them. So, this thing does hit very hard. It has some very nice alpha damage. After all, blasters are known to have the highest DPS and highest alpha damage in the game, but the shortest range. Now, you have to be very careful around ships with tracking computers. You have to be very careful around Oracle's cruisers or any other kite cruiser because they can easily orbit around you at 40 kilometers with a micro-warp and you are not going to be able to hit them with the blasters because one of their downside is the short range. So in low sec, the long range builds for sniping is definitely the way to go, although this ship's range is not the same as the range on some of the other assault battlecruisers. It has a shorter range. Basically, this is one of the only, if not the only, assault battlecruiser that is built for brawling primarily. Although it can snipe, but the sniping distance is kind of weird. I say a snipe range is over 100 kilometers, while this ship has issues to hit 70 kilometers with the large rifled railguns. But the blast performance is flawless. Honestly, this thing might have the fastest clear times at the moment, quickly followed by the Oracle, although the Oracle with the beam lasers and with the focus crystal can yeet 10,000, so their DPS is about the same. The only difference is that the Oracle can sit safely at 100 kilometers or above 100 kilometers, while this ship has to get close in order to do that type of damage, and that's the difference between the Oracle and the Talos. However, I would say for PvP action, I feel like the Talos has the best potential, quickly followed by the Trollnado, because you know the Trollnado has some crazy alpha damage and some crazy range, so you can easily use that for PvP. It works really well. The Oracle also can be used for PvP without a problem. After all, lasers are a really good choice and a really good weapon system. And well, I figured out we don't have a Battlecruiser with large missiles at the moment. There was a lot of talk about that a year ago, but I think that idea got scrapped and we are probably not getting a assault Battlecruiser with missiles. I remember there was so much talk about that a year or two ago. And well, nothing came of it in the end, which, you know, was to be expected. But we will see. After all, I do expect to receive new ships. I do expect to to see some new cruisers frigates in the next maybe I would say 2 or 3 months. I haven't looked at the trail roadmap in a while. There is definitely something talking about a new ship in the next 2 or 3 months or something like that, so I expect those to be released. And there is also the talk about new capitals about August, so we will receive a bunch of new ships this year. Will be quite exciting. Now, one thing that I kinda would improve, if you are running missions in high sec, you could probably slap a general unit for armor repair, just so the ship's armor can maintain the incoming DPS in check. I did activate the armor repair a little bit too late. I was carried away by fighting, so I kinda missed that moment, but it does hold at about 80%. But once I start orbiting, the incoming damage will drastically be reduced, and now the ship will start to fully repair itself. And not really a armor tank mission, because the railguns tear armors to shreds. For armor probably would be really good, or Minotaur, but for Serpentis ships, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to do an armor tank against them, but it works. Looks a little bit risky, but you know, it does work in the end. So this is definitely a very fun to fly ship, and I'm very happy that I actually did decide to try it out. And well, the next thing that I have to do is I have to decide which one to get and to fly. Well, that was a very quick 6 million ISK mission, and yeah, the DPS output on this thing is really good. Can it match the DPS of a Vindicator? Well, yeah, it can. It definitely can. It can get close. It can probably surpass it. There is probably, if you have a different nano core, you can actually get a lot more DPS out of this thing. So there is still a lot of DPS potential to be shown on the Talos. But definitely a very, very fun to fly ship, and also a very beautiful ship to look at. I mean, just look at this hull, it's gorgeous. I forgot how pretty some of these ships can be.
Docking request accepted.
But with that being said, that would be it for the Talos 3. Hope that you guys have enjoyed this little run with the assault Battlecruisers. Do tell me which one of these 4 ships do you like the most? Which one do you fly? Which one do you plan on flying? And with that being said, as always, I love you all. Fly safe, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.